want to take a look at a few images on e-anatomy, and this is a 3D T1 weighted brain. We're looking at an axial image. This is the anterior side of the patient, posterior, left and right. And we are looking at a T1 weighted image. We know that because the fluid in the globe of the eye is dark and the fluid in the aqueduct of Sylvius is dark. So that's fluid is dark on a T1 weighted image. We also have a little bit of fluid on the very top point of this cursor that I have is a little bit of fluid around the meninges. Remember that there is CSF fluid around the meninges, and that meninges surrounds this optic nerve. So you've got a little bit of dark fluid around there. The optic nerves travel posteriorly. At the same time they're traveling posteriorly, they travel superiorly, and we're going to see that in just a moment. I'm going to bring back up the anatomical parts just for a moment so that you can see. Let's see, let's deselect all and select just the cranial nerves here. There we go. So you can see the optic nerve here, and you can see the third nerve coming off the anterior side of the pons. And if I just move, I think, one slice inferiorly, then you see the fourth nerve coming off the posterior. And it's really hard to see. I'm not expecting you to know that for the exam. I just want you to know generally where they are in relation to the cerebral peduncles and the pons. So I'm going to move back superiorly now so we can follow the track of the optic nerve, and I'm going to take off those anatomical parts now so they don't get in the way of the cursor. So as we travel superiorly, then we see that we get into that, and went just one too far, into the optic chiasm here, where the optic nerves come back from the globe of the eye, and then they become the optic tracts as they go most posterior toward the occipital lobe. So now you can see the optic tracts that they travel posteriorly. And they go around the cerebral peduncles towards the back of the brain. So now I'm going to move more inferiorly again. We can work through that. There's the optic tracts going toward the optic chiasm. And then from there anteriorly, you're going to see the optic nerves. And then as we travel more inferiorly, there's that third cranial nerve again. We have the basilar artery here. You're catching that bright. It normally would not be bright, but you're probably catching some phase, rephasing of the protons as they travel through the vessel at that point. And as we travel more inferiorly, I'm going to show you the trigeminal nerve. Oh, I'm going the wrong way again. I apologize. There we go. The trigeminal nerve is a very large nerve, and it comes off the midpoint of the pons and travels anteriorly. It's the largest nerve. Some people at first get this confused with the 7th and 8th nerves, but you know that we're not quite near where the external ear, the external meatus is yet. So we need to go a little bit more inferiorly before we see that. You see the fourth ventricle here very nicely. So that's the end of that trigeminal nerve. And now here we have the 7th and 8th nerve. So you can see the 7th nerve is a little bit more anterior, and the 8th nerve is most posterior. The 7th nerve also goes up. So when we're looking at a coronal picture, you're going to see the 7th nerve superior to that 8th nerve. So you can remember that by 7 up. And on an axial image, when you think of up as being the anterior portion, you can think of 7 up in that plane as well. So 7th and 8th nerves on this side, and then on this side you can see 7th and 8th as well. So now I'm going to go into the coronal view and just show you very quickly the 7th and 8th nerves. I want to take a look a little bit too. After we go past the globe of the eye, then you can see the optic nerve as it travels most posteriorly. And we get into something called chemical shift here. So where the water and the fat meet, there's a little bit of chem shift, and that makes it a little bit harder to distinguish everything very clearly here in the orbit. You can see the optic nerves as they travel posteriorly, also travel a bit superiorly. And now we're in that area of the optic chiasm and the sella, the pituitary gland. We've got the cavernous sinus on either side, and that's where that third, fourth, the two branches of the fifth, and the sixth nerve travel through. And there's the infundibulum right there. And then as we go more posteriorly than that, we're going to be able to see The 7th and 8th nerves, they are not as easy to see on this MRI scan. We didn't get a very clear picture just because of the angle of the patient, but here you can see the 7th nerve goes more superiorly and the 8th nerve is more inferior. Maybe on the other side we catch it a little bit, no, not too well on that other side. So that just gives you a little bit better feeling for the cranial nerves, especially the ones that I want you to be aware of, the 7th and 8th, the 3rd, 4th, number 2, the optic nerve is really important, and the 5th, the trigeminal nerve. Those are the ones that you're probably going to be able to distinguish the best on MRI. And then let's take a look at the T2 weighted image of the brain as well. Because these are thicker slices, you're not going to see it as well, but what you will see when we go inferiorly here, they have this one backwards. Okay, so as we go inferiorly, yep, you can see that the sella and the pituitary gland, and then you can see the cavernous sinus on either side. We're just starting to get into the 7th and 8th nerves, and because you have a little bit of fluid there in the inner ear, you can see those a lot more clearly than you can on the T1 weighted images. The T1 is always good for pathology, and T2, you can see the fluid real well, so you have to do both sets of images most of the time. But here you can see the 7th and 8th nerves. Again, I'm going to take off the anatomical parts so that you can see them. There you go. And also remember that the 7th nerve comes off a little bit more medial and more anterior to that 8th nerve. So 7th nerve is anterior and superior and also medial. And the 8th nerve is posterior, inferior, and a little bit more lateral as it takes off from the pons. And one last thing I wanted to show you in Netter's, especially as you start to study the nerves a little bit more in depth, if you go into Rate 401, these are great images within Netter's that allow you to see the nuclei of each cranial nerve so that you can see where in the pons and medulla the nerve originates. So here you have the cerebral peduncles and the quadrigeminal plate, the aqueduct of Sylvius as it comes down in the fourth ventricle, and the cerebellum, the pons, and the medulla. And you can see each of the cranial nerves and where the nucleus originates. So you have the 3rd nerve here coming anteriorly off the, just where the pons meets up with the cerebral peduncles here. So that's the 3rd nerve, and the 4th nerve you can see originates on the posterior side and then wraps around as it goes towards the cavernous sinus. And the 5th nerve, you can see how thick that trigeminal nerve is as it comes off the midpoint of the pons. And then the rest of the nerves here are all inferior to that. So this is another great image, and then there's one more. I'm going to just slide down here a little bit and see if I can bring it up. Oh, there we go. And then this is a view from the posterior side, and you can see that they've kind of opened up the brainstem so that you can see both sides of the brainstem and the nuclei and where they originate. And it just gives you one more view to take a look and get a little more familiar with how those nerves exit the brainstem and feed the rest of the brain and body. And that will be our lecture on the cranial nerves.